The camera was already recording when it happened. 10 minutes. That was all they agreed on. 10 minutes that would either end their marriage or save their daughters' lives. A husband gave his wife a choice: the dog goes, or he does. She refused to back down without proof. So they set up a camera, left their twin girls on the living room floor, and walked away. What that camera captured changed everything they thought they knew about love, instinct, and who was really protecting their family. Mark's voice left no room for negotiation. I already called the shelter. He leaves today. She held one twin against her chest. The other sat on the floor between them, watching her parents with wide, uncertain eyes. Both girls had the same dark curls, the same expression, too young to understand the argument, old enough to feel the tension in the room. In the corner, the German shepherd lay still. His name was Bruno. He'd been with them 3 years, since before the twins were born. His eyes moved quietly between the two girls, steady and unhurried. He's a danger, Mark said, pointing at him. Twin babies, Elena. Double the risk. I won't gamble both our daughters on a dog. He's never growled. Never snapped. Not once in 3 years. When he does, our girls pay the price. Elena looked at Bruno, then back at her husband. Then let's find out, she said. 10 minutes. The twins, the dog, and a camera. If you're right, I'll watch you load him into that van myself. Mark's jaw tightened. Fine. And when I'm right, you don't fight me on it. Elena's hands weren't steady as she set up the camera on the shelf. She'd spent weeks reading articles, German shepherds and small children, bite statistics, warning signs. She understood it in theory. Fear that comes from research is real fear. But it was also blind. It couldn't see what was right in front of it. Bruno had never once made her nervous around the girls. Not once. She positioned the camera, checked the angle, and stepped back. Both twins were settled on the carpet. Lily was shaking a set of stacking rings, making them rattle with both hands. Her sister Claire sat nearby, pressing a stuffed rabbit to her face and making soft sounds against its ears. Bruno lay several feet away, not beside one girl, but precisely between both of them. His chest rose and fell slowly. His eyes moved from Lily to Claire, Claire to Lily, in a quiet, constant rhythm. In the kitchen, Mark and Elena watched the live feed on her phone. The screen was small. Neither of them spoke. Look at the way he's watching them, Mark said finally. That's not calm. That's calculation. That's attention, Elena said. It's completely different. On screen, Lily shook the rings again. The rattle made Claire turn her head. She started crawling toward her sister. Bruno sat up slowly, his ears lifted. His head tracked both movements without rushing. It's starting, Mark said, his voice low. But Bruno didn't move toward either girl. Instead, he shifted his position carefully, lowering his chest to the floor, turning his body at a slight angle so he could see both twins and the full length of the room at the same time. Mark frowned. What is he doing? Elena leaned closer to the screen. He's making sure he can see everything, she said quietly. Both of them and the whole room. Before Mark could answer, Bruno's ears pulled back. His eyes locked onto the left side of the room. His muscles tightened. His body rose slightly, not aggressive, but ready. Lily had stopped playing with the rings. She was crawling now, moving toward the left corner of the room, babbling happily to herself. From that corner, the robot vacuum rolled into frame, its round body humming across the rug, sensor sweeping, heading straight toward Lily. It's just the vacuum, Mark said. Elena's stomach turned. She remembered, the machine had caught Bruno's tail twice in the past month, startling him hard both times. He'd learned to be wary of it. He knew it was unpredictable. On screen, Bruno's chest expanded. A low rumble built inside him. He rose, dropped his body into a low, controlled stance, and began moving toward Lily. Then Claire moved. She heard her sister crawling away and decided to follow, but in the opposite direction. She turned and began crawling quickly toward the right side of the room, toward the staircase. The one they'd been meaning to gate off for 2 months. The one with 12 wooden steps that dropped straight to the floor below. The gate wasn't installed. The top of the stairs was completely open. Elena grabbed Mark's arm. The stairs. No, no, no. On the screen, Bruno's head snapped to the right. He saw Claire, her tiny hands slapping the carpet, moving fast, giggling like it was a race. She had no idea what was at the edge of the room. The vacuum continued rolling toward Lily on the left. Claire continued crawling toward the open staircase on the right. Bruno stood frozen 1 full second, his head turning sharply between both girls. His breathing was visible on screen, his body a held breath of muscle and decision. He couldn't reach both of them. He has to choose, Mark whispered. His voice had changed completely. He can't. He can't get to both of them. Bruno chose. He lunged left toward the vacuum and drove his muzzle hard into the machine's side. One firm shove. The vacuum sensor scrambled, its wheels spun sideways, and it rolled away from Lily, changing direction entirely. Lily squealed in surprise and sat down. She stopped crawling. Bruno didn't look back at her. His head was already turning right. 4 seconds had passed. Claire was less than 3 feet from the top step, still moving, still giggling, one hand reaching forward. Bruno crossed the room. There was no other way to describe it, he was simply there, suddenly, his paws barely seeming to touch the carpet. He reached Claire just as her fingers touched the edge of the first step. He took the back of her pajama top gently between his teeth and pulled. Claire's body swung backward, away from the edge. She made a startled sound, arms flailing, confused and frightened. Bruno dragged her a full 3 feet from the staircase, released her, and immediately placed his body between her and the stairs. A living wall. He didn't move from that spot. Claire started crying. Lily, hearing her sister, started crying too. Bruno stood at the top of the stairs, chest heaving, eyes moving between both girls, counting them, checking them, making sure they were both there. Then, slowly, he walked to Lily first. He lowered his head and pressed his nose gently against her cheek. She grabbed a fistful of his fur. Her crying softened into sniffles. He crossed to Claire. He lowered his head again. She grabbed his ear and yanked it hard, and her crying dissolved into a shaky giggle. Bruno turned. He lay down directly between both girls in the open staircase. His eyes were still alert, his ears still raised. Guarding. In the kitchen, Elena was shaking. Her hand covered her mouth. Tears ran down her face without her noticing. She couldn't speak. She couldn't move. Mark stood beside her, completely still, his face drained of color. He went for the vacuum first, Mark said slowly, like he was working through it out loud, because he could redirect it in one move. Then he ran for the stairs, because that was the real danger. He stopped. He calculated the risks. And he prioritized. On the screen, both twins had crawled toward Bruno. They climbed onto him, pulling his fur, patting his sides, using him as a hill to roll over. He lay perfectly still beneath them, tail moving in a slow, gentle rhythm. His eyes never left the staircase. Mark pressed the back of his hand against his mouth. I almost sent him away. His voice broke on the last word. He saved both of them. He saved both our girls. I was so wrong. When the 10 minutes ended, Elena ran. She was on her knees in the living room before the alarm had finished sounding, pulling both twins into her arms at once, pressing her face against their curls. Bruno stood beside her, tail wagging, watching her face, then the girls, then her again. She pressed her hand into his fur. "Good boy." Her voice cracked. "You saved them. You saved both our babies." Lily grabbed Bruno's nose with both hands. Claire leaned forward and pressed her forehead against his. Mark stood in the doorway. He crossed the room slowly. He lowered himself to one knee. He placed both hands on Bruno's head and held them there. "You're not going anywhere," he said quietly. "This is your home. These are your girls." That night, Bruno didn't sleep in his usual spot. He lay down on the floor directly in front of the staircase, just outside the nursery door. His eyes were half closed. His ears stayed lifted. He wasn't exhausted. He was exactly where he was supposed to be. And from that night forward, no one in that house ever had to wonder who was watching over those two little girls while they slept. If you were Elena, would you have left your twin girls alone with the dog for those 10 minutes? Would you have trusted him the way she did? Tell us in the comments below. If this story stayed with you, subscribe to the channel and leave a like. Thanks so much for watching. See you in the next one.